The king's back. 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 The king's back.
Yeah, what's up? What's good? What's happening? Welcome to my live stream. I am the actual King Smith, and this is a different Thursday video than what I normally put out. This this live stream today is one that was scheduled for tomorrow, but due to an upcoming exam that I have, I'm glad that the person that I'm going to be coming on and having a conversation with was able to reschedule and come on and share something that occurred that he was indirectly around that has had a significant impact on his life. The person that I'm bringing up is a military veteran. They have deployed in service of our country, and after service, got into wrestling, wrestled under the name of KT King, and wrestling was his passion. It was something that he enjoyed doing up until recently. If you have not been living up under a rock, the son of Quentin Rampage Jackson, Raja Jackson, was a part of an incident late August in which there was a highly misunderstanding that occurred between Raja Jackson and another Knox pro wrestler, Stuart Smith, who goes by the name of Psycho Stu. The fallout from that incident has resulted in recent charges against Raja Jackson, where he has been charged with one felony battery causing serious bodily injury and one misdemeanor battery that, if convicted, could face up to 7 years for the felony and 6 months for the misdemeanor. Raja Jackson has since posted bail. Everybody saw the video if you haven't been living under a rock, to include Mr. Beast, who's one of the most well-known streamers out there. Yet there was a name that people probably haven't heard of. And it's that name, KT, Mr. Kevin Thomas, who goes by KT King, uh, in the wrestling sphere anyway, that I'm gonna bring up today so that he could talk about his side of the story, what occurred from his point of view, and just the impact that that's had on his personal life. So without further ado, let's bring up hold on. I had him up. I no longer see him in the back screen anymore. So let me fill some time while I figure out what's going on here. I wonder if the internet went bad on his side. Let me see. Give me a second. Well, while I wait on KT King to come back, how's everybody doing? I know some people are feeling the effects of this government shutdown. Next week is when we're going to start seeing the rubber meets the road because we're going to have, if you're a federal employee anyway, payday. Federal employees got paid this week. So we're now working for free essentially if you weren't furloughed until our next pay period, which is in 2 weeks from now, or the next payday anyway. If you're a military person, it's the first and the 15th. You get a mid-month and an end-of-month pay. And when people don't get paid, folks start to get real antsy, especially when you're doing the work. So how y'all doing? Let's see. KT King's telling me that there's a connection issue right now. All right. Uh-huh. Hmm. Let me see how I can fix this. He's having a connection issue. Okay. All right. I think he's back. So I was trying to fill some time. Without further ado, let's bring him on before we have other issues. We got the man that's going to be sharing his side of the Rajah Jackson incident and the impact that it's had on him, Mr. KT. How's it going, my man?
Thank you for having me on your platform. I appreciate that, King. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing good. Doing good. I'm doing okay. Today is my Friday. I'll be off the next couple of days. I got some studying to do. Got an appointment tomorrow. So pretty like it's a chill weekend upcoming for me, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be taking this exam for it's a CompTIA cert for Security Plus, trying to get my IT game up. So other than that, man, and I am doing fine. I'm doing all right.
That's
Life's
good.
good.
Just like what Coach Greg Adams says, you're bossing up and like you find ways to continuously grow. That's good. I'm proud of you. Keep it up.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, Coach Greg
Hey, before we
Adams
go
is a
forward, just in case if we have any more connection issues, just bear
okay.
with me. What I had to do was I had to drop out, then come back on. That thankfully cleared up the connection issue. So if that happens again, just give me a minute or two to reconnect.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. So how I know KT King, it's not because him and I served together, even though him and I are both veterans. I know KT King because there's a content creator who goes by the name of Coach Greg Adams. I think that the guy does some fantastic work around it's like men-centered um topics, right? Things that are if you I'm gonna speak for me. I applied some of the things that he talked about and feel like I leveled up in life primarily because of the things that he mentioned, right? And it kind of helped change my mindset. And fast forward when the Rajah Jackson incident had occurred, I had seen your name in the chats. There's another platform that he uses that you and I are also in as well. And Greg would always talk about you and wrestling, but I had no idea that when that story went viral, that there would be some indirect fallout that came from your end. So tell the viewers out there a little bit about who you are as a person, and then we'll go forward into what happened at the Knox Pro event and what was the fallout from that. So who is KT?
Well, my birth name is Kevin Thomas. I served 6 years active duty in the United States Army. My first duty station was Fort Wainwright. I deployed with the 172nd Stryker Brigade Combat Team out of Fort Wainwright, Alaska. Went from extreme cold to heat in the summer of '05. We were supposed to be deployment here got turned in the last minute 16-month deployment. Also at the same first right in the contract, we got out on Sunday 2006, turned to a 16-month deployment when we went also south to Baghdad, came back. PCS means Permanent Duty Stations to Fort Irwin National Training Center, California. Served the remaining 3 years of my in the United States Army there. During that time, I was legally married, had a child. I'm not going to say his name out here on the internet. After I got out of the Army, I got into law enforcement. I worked in law enforcement for several years. And I really loved that career. I was passionate about it because that is something I wanted to do from when I was a child. I'm an 80s kid. I grew up watching Police Academy and things of that nature. You know, the A-Team, Knight Rider, the Incredible Hulk. I
Yeah.
truly believe in people being able to have the ability to help those who can't help themselves. So that's what was driving me in my law enforcement career. But at the same time, with all the ripping and running and having to at times get physical with suspects during certain calls I had to respond to, I still have that passion for professional wrestling and want to be in it, being an active, full-time worker to where I can provide for my family. During that time while I was in law enforcement, got a divorce from my son's mother, have shared custody of him. And a couple years afterwards, while still working in law enforcement, I met my daughter's mother, who I tend to have a relationship, a family with, to have what's called now a blended family. And during that time, I was thinking, okay, maybe I could try to go for professional wrestling and save the rest of however many years I can put into it and taking the beating in there so I can provide for my family. That's why I got into professional wrestling, because I was still passionate about it. It's something I want to do, but also it's something I especially wanted to do for my kids so I can provide a better quality of life for them. So then when they turn into adults for the rest of the 2/3 of their life they're going to spend as adults, they can come to me whenever they will eventually probably get into a financial hardship, a jam, if you will. I'd rather them come to me and ask me for money and hit me up and go out here to one of these financial lending institutions and get into massive amount of debt. So I figured I get into professional wrestling because, one, like I said, I grew up watching it from when I was a kid. And also, this is my way of not only improving the quality of life for myself, but also improving the quality of life for my kids so they don't have to want for anything. That's why I got into professional wrestling. So I turned to Knox Pro Wrestling Academy and Entertainment, if you will. It's owned and operated by 2015 WWE Hall of Famer Rikishi Fatu and his cousin of the Anoa'i family, Reno Anoa'i, also known as Count of California Black Pearl. I got in there in November of 2017. From then till the time of this incident, I was there for roughly 8 years. And also
Okay.
during that time, I used my GI Bill, went to college, furthered myself, got a business management degree and a business administration program as well to further increase my value.
Nice. Yes, that's one of the things that I didn't join for the college benefits, but I did use the GI Bill and tuition assistance while I was active duty and the GI Bill after I got out to get both my undergraduate in business and a graduate degree in business administration as well. Let me go back and ask you something. One of the things that Greg talks about is one of the biggest decisions that a man can make is who they choose to procreate and marry. How old were you when you got married, and what were the causes of that relationship not working out?
Okay, so I got married to my son's mother while I was in the United States Army, literally just after, back from deployment. Back in,
Mhm.
we got married in March of 2007, on March 18th, the day before my birthday. I was 26 at the time. My son, he was born a year and a half later. So he was born on October 4th, 2008 at 1:30 a.m. at Fort Irwin, NTC, which, when it comes to all my kids, I was not only in the delivery room when my kids were born, I actually performed the delivery. I was literally hands-on for both my son and my daughter, for my daughter's mother as well, which came years
Ma
later after the fact.
it takes a different person to be in the delivery room. I was also in the delivery room as well, and I had a camcorder, and while I didn't film, like, everything, I wanted to see, like, how stuff looked. and there's a part of the video that kind of goes wavy because I took a peek down there, was like, wished I didn't do that shit.
Hey, you remember on Eddie Murphy Delirious when he was talking about it looks like he catches mitt? He
Yeah.
wasn't joking.
Yeah.
You see that head come out, like, yeah, your view of that changes. But yeah, when both
Yes,
my
it
kids were
does.
born, my son and daughter, my son, like I said, he was born October 4th, 2008, which his birthday was just recently. He's now 17 in his junior year of high school.
Yeah.
I was literally hands-on in the delivery of him because what happened was we got to Fort Irwin. Where we were at Fort Irwin, we lived on post for other people who call military installations base. Post, same thing. Me and my wife at the time were sitting there Friday night, October 3rd, watching Law and Order SVU reruns. We had a tile floor in our house, and I noticed around like 9:15 at night, I saw this big puddle of water underneath her. And I thought to myself, it's like, I didn't spill anything. I know I didn't have, I was like, wait a minute. I was like, hey, your water broke. So I got her up
It's
carefully.
go time.
I got her to her vehicle because her vehicle was more comfortable to get her around in during that type of situation than mine. Because at that time I had a Pontiac Firebird with T-tops. She had a Honda Civic 4-door, so I got her to her car, and I took her. Thankfully, we lived on post. The hospital wasn't that far away. It was like literally like a quarter-mile away from our house. I got her there. For whatever reason, the doctor that was she was seeing there, I guess she didn't get the messages from her nursing staff to let her know that we were there because she was going into labor. So by the time the doctor, I think she was a captain or a major, by the time she got to the hospital, at that time, looked at the nurse that was there with me. I said, look, here's what we'll do. I'm familiar with coaching. I know how to make, you guys just tell me about when it comes to cutting the umbilical cord. Tell me where to cut. I'll pass my son off to you. You guys do all the cleanup. That's how it went down. So by the time my son came out, he's already in my hands. The doctor walked in. She's like, okay, I'm ready. He's like, all right, took care of it. Thanks to the nursing staff. Same thing with my daughter. When I was with my daughter's mother, years after the fact, after I got a divorce from my son's mother, she was born, my daughter that is, she was born via C-section. So the doctor, for this one, he was there. I don't know how to do no C-section, all that cutting and sewing back stuff and whatnot, back
Mm-hmm.
up. But yeah, that was very unique. It's just like you said a few moments ago. Yeah, you can literally on the C-section, you see everything to the point where you speak, you can hear an echo. But yeah, I delivered my daughter. That's something I wanted to be there for because that's how much of a dedicated, involved parent slash father I am with my kids. And again, that's why I got into professional wrestling. Yeah, sure, because I'm passionate about it. I wanted to be a worker full time. I understood the risks physically as well as the especially the main sacrifice I knew I had to make, and my kids were okay with it because they're at the time I started, they were cognitive enough to understand what I had to do in order to make that happen, which was if I were to get hired by World Wrestling Entertainment, because that was my goal to get to that company.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be on the road a lot, and I probably end up missing good chunks of their childhood. They were okay with it because they believed in me. They understood what it was for, and I was doing it really for them. Also, at the same time, yes, create a genuine, because I understood what a legacy is. To where a legacy is not how many kids you have or how many relationships you have. A legacy is about the work a person does, man or woman, over the course of a lifetime, and how it can positively build that person up to where also if it can resonate with others around them in society, it can help uplift others and make them push themselves and get to their respective goals in their lives. That's how you make a legacy. That's also why I was in it, especially again for my kids. Man, it's great, you're working as a wrestler, especially if you're working as a face, you get the crowd popping for you, that's cheering for you. But the main people I really always wanted to impress, just have the admiration of, is my kids, but just my son and my daughter, and that's what I was doing it for. Sure, yeah,
Go back
improve the quality
to
of life, but yeah, for my kids.
your first, the marriage to your son, your son's mom. Why did that end?
Oh wow. So ironically, when that started, my grandmother, my mother's side of the family, she had just passed away.
Mm-hmm.
He had a heart attack. So we just had the funeral. I was one of the pallbearers, and then I started to find. I didn't find out right then and there in the moment, but we had a argument, which led to eventually I had to abruptly leave the house, and it was at the point to where I maintained my composure, to where it's documented by law enforcement because they had to get involved because I had to call them. I had to get a couple of some whatever I could get my hands on to get out of there along with my son because of how she was acting at the time. So come to find out, where other people I was stationed with, because I was still living near the area of where Fort Irwin NTC was, people start coming up to me and telling me, "Yeah, I've been stepping out on you." I was like, "Are you sure?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're sure." They're telling me because all the times where sometimes my schedule where I was working at, it would fluctuate. Where sometimes I wouldn't be off on the weekends. I wouldn't be off on the full Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So a lot of the times where she would tell me, all of a sudden, within the last year I was in the Army too, and my first year being in civilian life and working in law enforcement, she all of a sudden wanted to start going to church. I was like, okay, all right. And there'd be times where when I was off on a Sunday, I'd ask, "Hey, can I come with you? Come with you and my son." I'm trying to also catch myself and not putting my son's name out there because I don't want to put his stuff out there because we'll get to why about that during this interview.
Yep,
She'd
understood.
always tell me, yeah, she'd always tell me no. No, no, it's okay. You can just stay here and rest. So months after the divorce started its course in summer of 2012 going forward, people started telling me, say, "Yeah, she was stepping out on you." And the person she was with at that time, coincidentally, was, I guess, at the same church she was attending. So I guess all that time she had already just been with someone else. So that's how that ended.
Okay. It's interesting when you kind of look back at things and the stuff that you were in the cloud about, things that just you go, it makes sense when you're outside of the fog. Because hearing you say that to where if you're with somebody that's loving and that person loves you and all of the good things, right? You would want that if you were to say, "Hey, let's attend services together." They'd be like, "Yeah, come on. You don't get the chance to come that often anyway." So to Heisman you and be like, "Hey, no, 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 KT, stay home and rest. I don't, I'll go serve the Lord on my own." That's one of those things that looking back at it, you're probably like, I'm surprised I didn't see it then.
Yeah, because I didn't expect it. I
Mhm,
really didn't. Because we were only married for a total of 5 years.
mhm.
So that's the total of the 3 years I was there at Fort Irwin NTC from March of 2007 to where our divorce was technically finalized. Well, it started in April of 2012, but according to court documents, it wasn't finalized or it wasn't granted till I think December of 2013. But what caused it to drag out for years after the fact, was the child custody.
There's
Because
a comment here that says that it always makes sense after the fact. Now, I'm gonna ask you, you don't have to say how much and put a figure to it,
Mhm,
but this is something that men could learn from. You just
mhm.
said that it took a while because it dragged out because of custody.
Yeah, the divorce part
Roughly
that got
roughly
taken
how
care of,
much
but she
did
drug.
you how much resources were extracted
Oh
to fight
gosh,
for proper custody? You don't have to put a number to it if you don't want to, but I think that this is something that men need to understand.
wow! Just for that time, during that time period, because it's literally been ongoing just for my son's entirety of his existence. Just for that time period, I'd say with also trying to at that time when family was helping me and when I did have a professionally licensed attorney representing me for part of that until I started representing myself, I'd say easily 35, 40 grand. That's the retainer.
Um,
And then the work that they did by the hour for writing motions, reviewing case case filings, preparing for court meetings, responding to declarations and affidavits and court appearances, and especially when she started getting an attorney and her attorney would deliberately get continuance after continuance. because just off the court appearances alone, for the time I had an attorney, she was charging me $800 just for appearing. Even if
Mhm.
there's a continuance, she still has to get paid for showing up. So,
Mm.
yeah, roughly 35, 40 grand. That's up until 2015 when I started
2015.
representing myself. Yeah, 2014, 2015 timeframe is when I started representing myself.
You know,
Yeah,
that number, that right there, you and I both know, and other people that are listening can go, that right there in itself, who does that benefit? Does it benefit you, KT? Does it benefit your son, KT? Answer the question. Losing that money for custody, who does that benefit?
really benefits only the state and the courts and the people,
Bingo.
the attorney. That's it. It doesn't
Yep,
help my son. It doesn't help
yep,
me
it
be
doesn't
able
help
to.
your son at all. It'll definitely help some judge's kid. It'll definitely help some attorney's children or fund their trip to Turks and Caicos.
Yeah, and especially when we had to get counselors involved and have to do psyche vows and have to pay for those expenses as well because that's included. And especially when it comes court ordered, yeah, that doesn't help anyone but the courts, the attorneys who they got their bills that need to get paid. What I mean is like if they want to go out for some trip or get some house renovation or get some new car, yeah, that's not helping me being able to create like a savings account for my son, whether he goes to college or not, or even me for that matter, where I'm trying to now live on my own separate from my ex-wife and trying to maintain my own home, which was at that time I was living in a two-bathroom apartment in Victorville, California. That's in San Bernardino County in the high desert area. Oh, it doesn't help take care of our son as quote unquote co-parents. It helps no one. It just creates animosity and debt.
Last
And a lot of
question
people, they
before
don't
I move
understand.
on. Nope. People don't. Now I got one more question prior to moving on. Why did you say, "Will you marry me?" Why did you ask the question?
Okay, so at that time, I met her like how a lot of people are meeting people now in 2025. I met her through MySpace,
Mhm.
through social media, and at first, yeah, everything was great. But this is where the rubber meets the road. After we got married, and now looking back on it in hindsight, especially now me being thoroughly educated, what I mean by that is me going to college and being thoroughly educated through my educational process, and I'm applying what I learned from psychology and sociology. I noticed now looking back on hindsight, the problem was one of the problems was lack of communication on both of our parts, being able to actually properly communicate what we're looking for in each other and what we need to get done to make it last past 5 years. One, two, on her part, there was a great attachment to always wanting to be around her mother. Because also that's when I didn't know at that time, but I learned this when I went to college and took psychology and sociology and ethics, which is a form of psychology education. It's a proven data fact that people, especially women who come from families where there's divorce, they're highly prone to also repeat that same behavior. I didn't see it because I was blinded by love and the burning desire at that time. I thought, oh, okay, this won't happen to us because it's me, and her. We're going to make this work. And now we have a child. Oh, we're definitely going to make it work. Nope. If I knew then what I know now between me, what I learned in college, and what I've learned from CGA, Coach Greg Adams, and what he talks about, which is based on patterns of daily human behavior, I think my life would be a lot different. And I mean that in a good way. No disrespect to my son. I still would have my son. I probably still have my daughter, but I think my life would be a lot different. And when it
Man,
comes to that part, that maybe could have went a little longer. I don't know. I can only speculate.
man, absolutely. All right. So, did you marry your daughter's mom?
Wanted to, didn't happen because of again things I found out where again I'm glad we're talking about this because also at the same time, I know we're going to get to the main crux of why we're here. This is relevant. A lot of people don't understand what men go through when it comes to them being in relationships and actually genuinely wanting to have a family. I
Yes.
wanted to.
Same.
Here's what the problems were. Now while I was with daughter's mother, that's when I was still in my law enforcement career. One. Two, come to find out, she has a substance dependency issue specific to marijuana. Now, I know
Mhm.
what a lot of people are going to say. You're going to probably have people in the comments, be it during this live stream or after the fact, in the overall comments, saying, oh, there's nothing wrong with a little weed. Weed's good. It came from the earth and all this and that. And weed this, weed that. I heard this about weed. It's like, no, weed, number one, legality wise, regardless if it's quote unquote state legal, whatever state you live in, federal law supersedes state law. So if it's still illegal at the federal level and there's a conflict between state and federal law, the superior law wins. Therefore, weed, marijuana, is illegal. The problem with weed, regardless of the they provide for those who may have certain medical conditions, THC content with weed is the problem. Well, that is this. Psychologically, every human being is born with latent behavioral personality disorders, behavioral health issues. Some people, they get them activated when they're exposed to some type of trauma over the course of their life. Some people, it doesn't come out unless they get into drinking heavy alcohol usage or smoking marijuana, weed. That THC content, especially in weed, unlocks that within a person. And once it's out, it stays out. The only way that person can get help, let alone even try to attempt to get cured from it, is one, to admit they have a problem. They don't admit that they have a problem. They're just going to go on living their life, doing whatever and being how they are. So that is why our relationship didn't work. Stemming from that, coming also off the fact that I found out a year into a relationship with her, right around the time when our daughter was conceived, found out she didn't just have an Instagram account, but like how you see now on Instagram, and it's not being misogynistic, it is what it is. You usually see it every day when you pop on Instagram, especially in America. She had a massive following because of how attractive she was and the type of sexually provocative pictures she's posting with the captions to especially fish for male validation, for male
Mhm.
attention.
Yep.
So I found out about that. She started every so often, there would be arguments where she'd throw that in my face and say, well, this guy, he said he'll do this for me. This guy said he'll do this. This guy's in my DMs. That guy's in my DMs. This person from this NFL team, this person from the WWE's in my DMs now too. Because I mentioned how you're into wrestling and now they're in my DMs. Yeah,
Oh,
so
man.
all that to our eventual breakup. And
You
now I have
know,
to
that's
haircut both my kids from both their
that is mad disrespectful, and it's
right,
like, it's one of the things that it happens to people that way, and when you
right.
hear it, if you don't
People,
know about it, you're like, "No, man, that can't be true." I had somebody who self-described like, this person I wish you know what? Case not about them, because I can call them now. She will tell you she's a 5 made up on a good day, but she curates her Instagram in a certain manner, and she
mm-hmm,
was on dating apps. Thousands upon I mean, not thousands, but hundreds upon hundreds of men in her DMs trying to take her out, trying to smash, right? Let's just call a spade a spade.
right,
Um, and celebrities, people that I'm like, "Wait, like, you've got access that person reached out to you? This rapper reached out to you?" My mind was blown when I learned that one, and this person will if I called her now and she happened to pick up, she would say, "Yeah, I'm basically a 5 made up, ain't nothing special about me, but the way she curates her online presence, has people in her DMs all the time." And that attention right there, if the person's not really focused on you or focused on strengthening the the relationship, the lesson that I would tell any young person, because I do mentor some guys, 18 to 22, I tell them, "Look, if they're doing this, if they're using this, you are not the only one. You are part of a roster. You are in a rotation. Do not try to make this person your main because you are not their main. You are either the foodie guy, you're the attention guy, you're the guy with the good genes that they're trying to procreate with because they're ovulating. And when you speak like this, people want to put you in a certain box or call you a certain way, but I'm like, open your eyes to how things are actually occurring. And once you do, people can't manipulate you. Like once you kind of see things in a certain light, or you just see things for how they are, life gets great after that point. But it can make things difficult because my daughter, who I was married to her mom, she is in college now. She's a freshman. And when me and her mother got divorced, I'm thankful that it wasn't a I didn't have to fight the enemy with trying to co-parent her with our relationship ending. I can't imagine the difficulties that it must have been having to have an ongoing court battle with not just one, but 2 of your parents, of your kids' mom, and just the toll that that can have. So, we are gonna go a little bit forward. You got out of the service, you were working, in a law enforcement capacity for a while. Are you still doing that?
No, I haven't been in law enforcement since the time I started with Knox Pro.
Okay. Now, I know one other person, and there seems to be something with law enforcement and wrestling. There's a guy that I know, I won't say his name, but he's down in Texas right now. I think he's a sergeant, but he used to wrestle as well. What made you go, "You know what? I'm in Southern California. There's this market. Let me check out wrestling. I mean, I'm a guy that's in shape, I'm used to being physical. Let me get into wrestling here and create this moniker." And how did you get KT King?
Okay. So part of it is, yes, I was passionate. That's the word at which I'm glad I'm at a stage in my life where I can say I can comfortably articulate it like this. Professional wrestling has been a passion of mine, something I've always liked, loved, and enjoyed since my childhood. I was an 80s kid. I grew up here in Southern California in the Los Angeles market, San Bernardino County, where Saturdays and Sundays I'd spend my afternoons in front of the TV watching WWF Superstars or WWF Wrestling Challenge at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. 3 hours later, when we got cable, we got TBS. I can now watch it at 3:05 West Coast time. NWA slash WCW Saturday night, or on Sunday I watch NWA slash WCW main event. So as years went by, I've always wanted to do it. I've always wanted to be there to actually have that career as being a quality professional wrestler. Then during my time of being in the Army, being deployed, and also during my deployment, getting into physical combat, close quarters combat situations, and also while I was working at law enforcement, where regularly on calls, especially after we respond to domestic violence calls, I'd always have to get physical with people. I still had that passion. I'd say, well, if I can survive literally life and death experiences between a combat deployment, and arguably one of the most hostile combat deployments in U.S. military history, and regularly having to do that in law, I said, I'm pretty sure I can probably apply myself if I'm at the proper place to learn how to be a quality professional wrestler. So then I found out about Knox Pro when, ironically, I went to WrestleMania 31 with my son during 2015 when they're in San Francisco's San Jose area. That was at the time where I was in a relationship with my daughter's mother. My daughter wasn't born yet. And during that weekend when we were there, that's when I learned of Knox Pro. So Knox Pro had always been on my radar. And then a few years later, I just pulled the trigger, if you will, and signed up and started training. How I came with
What was
KT
the
King.
initial fee to be able to get into that? Like, is there a time cost? Is there a financial cost? Is there a commitment to get into it? Can you talk a little bit about that?
With Knox Pro in particular, so when I signed up under the quote unquote beginners program. That was an initial $3,000. And then once I completed that, they put me in they said for me to continue, I had to do the advanced program. That was another, I think, $2,000. So in total, I spent $5,000. Then after that, there's a monthly membership fee to continue to be there and train until you finally get signed by World Wrestling Entertainment or some other top promotion in the world. It's like $65. So several grand easy over the years. That's not even including what I had to spend on trying to get gear so then when I can work shows with Knox Pro as a professional wrestler. That's an additional cost.
Now,
But
as you're building this KT King, are you promoting yourself? Does this Knox Pro help promote for you? Is there some type of partnership that goes in with that? Because I can imagine, like, there's you as the brand, and if you can market yourself or have some type of marketing machine behind you, I can imagine that from the business side of it, that's how you get that exposure, and, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm a complete outsider to this. Wouldn't that be like if you can be a marketable guy coming out of Knox Pro, is that what makes the next stepping stone look at you to go, "Hmm, this guy's got what it takes. I see that he or she is pulling these kind of numbers. Their social media presence is like this. Let's bring them up here and give them a shot." How does that work?
oh well, when it comes to first of all my character development, that's something I created on my own. What I mean
Mhm.
by that is this: you and I, we're in the same age range. We're both Gen Xers, and we've seen our share of quote unquote stereotypical black characterizations in various forms of media, where you got the hood types and the various type of hood types presentations for especially black men that they're always putting out in various forms of media and things of the like. I didn't want it to be that. That's been done to death, if you will. I wanted to be the complete opposite. I want to be something that's someone who's not just identified solely by their ethnic background or how some people still refer to as race.
Yeah.
I wanted to portray something to where it's just being about a good quality man who's got dignity, strength, not just physical strength, but inner good quality strength within him that all people can relate to regardless of their ethnic background. Similar to like what Stan Lee and Jack Kirby did several decades ago when they initially created T'Challa, Black Panther from Marvel, which now they eloquently did for Chadwick Boseman's untimely passing in 2018 with the release of that movie and putting that character in the MCU. I wanted KT as a professional wrestler to be on the same level as that, to where I'm pretty sure you saw Black Panther, the movie itself, as well as his initial MCU debut in Civil War in movie theaters, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure especially if you went on an opening weekend or within the first couple of weeks when the movie came out in theaters, when the crowd is really live and into it, I'm pretty sure even you too saw how the crowd was audibly reacting. He said, finally, we're seeing a leading black man who's articulate, confident, intelligent, and assertive. He's not out here talking about drinking this, smoking that, hey, where all the women at. Here's a man who's got dignity, class, and carries himself well that all people can want to be around and identify with. And then thought about his ethnicity later. While at the same time, when he did mention his ethnicity, they thought of it as being highly beautiful and making up as to why his character is the way it is. That's what I wanted to do with KT King because that's part of who I am and how I carry myself in my daily life, especially with me being a proud, dedicated, and devoted parent. That's what I wanted to do
Yep.
with KT King. And I believe to me that was marketable. But I guess to them, now when it comes to that, um, you have to quote unquote earn your way, which I understood. Yeah, you got to get the training, try to be there as consistent as possible, show that you're progressing, showing that you're improving. And if they do that whenever there's shows, so you can get your reps in to get used to working in front of live crowds. Yeah, if they decide to, whoever's making the decisions, they'll put you on posters or the digital flyers, if you will, especially if you go on their Instagram and their advertising shows. That's how you get out there. If you have access or you know how to use social media to get yourself out there while you're doing that, they'll commend you about that too. They'll uplift you about that too. But it's primarily how you show that you're progressing. And the more you show that they're progressing, they'll make the decision, okay, put them on this poster, put them on that poster for this upcoming show. Like that. That's how it's usually done, at least with them.
Okay. So we've got a little bit about who you are as a person. We've gotten into your background on how you got into wrestling. Let's get to the controversial part at this point. You were with Knox Pro Wrestling for how many years when the Raja Jackson incident had occurred?
Technically 8 years. It's November 2017 now. That incident occurred August 25, so 7 3/4 if you want to be real technical. But I
Okay.
just round up, call it 8.
Do you remember the exact date that the incident had occurred on?
Yeah, Saturday, August 23rd, 2025 at 8548 Lancashire Boulevard in Sun Valley, California, which is in Los Angeles County.
Why is that date memorable for you? Were you there when it happened?
There, I was part of the show that night. My match, I was in the opening match for that show that night.
Okay. So I'm going to show on the screen here what I'm talking about so that some of the viewers have a little bit of context. This is the wrestling incident. I got to do some things here. As CJ say, we'll do it live.
Oh, we'll do it live.
I'll write it and we'll do it live. All right, let's share the tab. Here we go. Let me change how this looks for us so that we're still on the screen. There we go. So I'm going to have it muted and I'm only going to play it up to a certain point. So what we see on the screen here, you were at this event where you were at this point in time where the match where Stu was up in the ring. Where were you at? Could you see the ring from where you were at?
As you ask that question now, this image of this individual, I'll say his name to be professional. It just because my he was how he was to the ring where when I was working in the first match of the show, that's when I was there and he had eyes on me, know about him being there. Now where I was during the time of Stu's match, but led to the end. Okay, that current Pro Entertainment Wrestling Academy. It used to be a VF. So attached to that building, there was a bar in there with a partition. The partition was open, but I was sitting on the left side of the partition of the bar, where there's a table set up to sell merch, and there's a brick wall there. I could see. I was not in direct line of sight of the ring. I can only see a portion of the ring going towards the entrance, and that's it. So I didn't see the actual run of the incident. And the reason why I was sitting there during that time when this incident unfolded, I was just thinking it was going to be just another show. I was going to try to sell search when intermission was going to take place, so that I could try to make some money to take care of my family. So I didn't see where Raja Jackson was. I didn't even know he was there until I started hearing when the incident took place. I started hearing women screaming and children crying, and then I saw Doug Malo, who made the actual save on Stu, come out through the bar area. When I saw him, again, I was thinking it was just a regular night. I was thinking maybe he's doing some running until I got up and looked. And by the time I got up, I started seeing people get Raja out of the building. They're backing him out of the building. And that's when I started finding out what actually happened literally after the fact.
Okay, so I'm gonna play a little bit of the incident, but due to YouTube guidelines, I'm gonna have to pause it at a certain point. So I do have the audio up now so people can hear as well. The guy on the left on the screen in the beard, that's Psycho Stu. Who's the other wrestler? Because nobody mentions his name.
Right. Okay, so in the ring, you got Psycho Stu, also known as his birth name. So if he's a U.S. Army combat veteran, just like me. The person that he's working with in this multi-tag team match, I believe that's Slickback. I'm not going to put his birth name out there. He's part of this tag team called Slick Sensations. It's like a boy band type gimmick. They're doing a multi tag team championship match. The person you see on the right, it's like a pink jacket. See, that's Hispanic fat that was just Knox. Their manager was Sweet Daddy Hughes on the apron.
Okay, now what I'm gonna not show is there's a little bit of build up to this that is in this video as well, but we are gonna skip this because I don't have it fully prepped. Actually, you know what? Let's come back to it. So this is at the 11:50 mark. Okay, so I'm gonna play this part here, and we're gonna see some people. This looks like behind the building. Is this behind the building that the wrestling event occurred at?
Yes, that's actually the rear portion of the building where it was supposed to be. What you see in the far background on the left, where you see that tent, that canopy, that was supposed to be the quote unquote locker room for our shows.
Okay.
And where you see Raja Jackson, that's on behind the portion of the building that had a kitchen within it.
Okay. So this is kind of one of the catalysts of everything going the way that it went that
He's
night.
gonna
So
sell it when he has to get reminded wrestlers that he is not one of them and is not one of the workers.
So this this footage here is from Raja Jackson's Kick live stream. Just like his father, Quentin Rampage has a pretty successful live stream, and there is money to be made if you have an audience, if you have a thing that you do, if you're consistent, there's money to be made in it. And his son was on the platform Kick as well. I'm live streaming on Kick as we speak. And Psycho Stu sees Raja. He sees that he's built like not a performer. He's built like an athlete, and he sees the cameras, and he goes, "Hey, let's try and do something and try to play this up." So he smashes a beer can on his head. Now, for those that are ignorant, like me, when it comes to the use of props, was that beer can like an actual beer can, or was it a prop can? Is that something that they teach y'all? If you're gonna do something like that, that there's a way to do it to where it has that impact and it looks good, but it doesn't really damage you?
From what I learned after, because literally, I didn't even know this instant when this happened in live time, much out of the loop I was when it came to him actually being there prior to the show. When it came to question beer can, what I could observe in that can was already partially consumed, which isn't being said as an indictment on Stu, but you can tell he consumed part of that can, gave him a buzz, but that can have been partially consumed to where contact with someone in a safe working way. That's how you get the impact that you saw in the video.
Okay.
It wasn't a full sealed can.
All right. Now, who are the two
Right,
people standing in between
probably
Raja and Stu right now? There's one in a cowboy hat and another person wearing I don't know what to call that garb, but like a garb around his waist.
okay. The person in the cowboy hat, that's the person who I found out after the fact, who brought Raja Jackson there that day. Who, when I found out after the fact, all the details after the event, he was also the same person who brought Raja and his father to a Knox Pro event 4 years ago. That being his
Okay.
working name, AJ Mana, who's known as On Hudson, in front of Raja Jackson. That's co-owner of Knox Pro Entertainment, Reno and Hawaii, of the Ash Fatu family, known as the Samoan Dynasty.
Okay. So Stu puts the beer can upside his head. There's an immediate misunderstanding. It looks like they try to talk it out at some point, and I'm showing that on the screen here. Stu's like, "Hey, man, I didn't know. I saw the cameras and things. I thought that you were, in on it and whatnot. My bad." So things kind of get talked out here. And you said it earlier, but I'm going to ask it again. when all of this went down, you weren't back there at this point, were you?
No, I wasn't back there. I was in the building. Where
Okay.
I was, I can actually tell you where I was in the building, even though all this was going on. I was sitting by the ring towards, or actually technically towards the front of the building. On the inside, that is, because it was very hot that day, because during that week of August 23rd, there's this really bad heat wave going on in Southern California. So I stayed inside for the majority of the day. And I put on some noise canceling headphones, shooting range, so I can drown out sound, just think to myself and focus on myself while staying out of the heat. During that time, because where I was sitting, I was literally out of sight, out of mind. So whenever Andre Hudson brought in Roxon, I had no clue any of this was going on until, like I said, literally after the actual incident took place is when I started finding out all the details.
Okay.
And I know the first detail.
Okay. Now I'm going to play one more part before I then fast forward to the assaults, because we are going to call it what it was. There's video of this. And I'm going to play this part here because this is a factor into, like, again, somebody that's me that's ignorant going, well, how is Raja allowed to get in the ring in the first place? So let's play this part here in which this guy, his name is AJ Hudson, right? Is that what
Yeah,
you said? AJ
Andre.
Mono?
His
Andre
working name was AJ Mana, but birth name is Andre Joel Hudson.
Okay, so this is where
Ironically, King, he's a U.S. Marine veteran.
Man, so there's a lot of veterans out here. All right, so this is Andre Hudson talking to Raja, who he has had some kind of relationship with, and with his dad or whatnot in the past. Let's hear what he talks to about him on camera in this hallway.
He was a pro. I understand. Yeah. Another thing is, even when we are working like that, you don't fucking, you know. That's what I'm saying. So you don't. He's a fucking idiot. Hey. So when you run in on his shit, you fucking give him his receipt.
Okay, so y'all heard that. He said when you run into him, give him his receipt. Now, I'm gonna play one thing because I was like, all right. I mean, I can kind of give some context, but without being in that space, I'm like, I don't know what a receipt is. So let's hear from Stone Cold Steve
What's a
Austin.
receipt?
A receipt is if you lay something in too hard, then the other person's got to send you a receipt that says, hey, dude, settle down. So anyway, a long time ago, I was working with the big boss man, Ray Traylor. Ray Traylor's about 6'6", 300 pounds. And Ray hit me with about 6 lefts. He knows I'm only going to take a few more. So finally, I've decided I've had enough. So I picked up Ray, I set him into the ropes, and I told him, I said, watch your clothesline. I decided, this was a receipt. I'm not going to give him a clothesline. What I did, I balled up my fist, and as he was coming, I went, bam. I hit him right between the eyes of my forearm with everything I had. And Big Ray went down. But he looked up at me like this, and he had a smile on his face because he knew he fucked up. And he goes, okay.
Okay, so that's context to what a receipt was. And I'm gonna take that off the screen here. And I'm gonna play a little bit more of this.
Remember what a receipt is? Give him that fucking receipt, bro. Tag this shit. If you got a fucking problem with it, I'll fucking run out there.
Okay, so that was talked about. That part's on camera. You know what? I think that it is relevant to ask this question now. From what you found out after the fact, who all knew that Raja was going to go into the ring, and who all knew that a receipt was going to occur?
People who knew first that Raja was going to be there at the event, it was not only Andre Hudson. Andre Hudson had also communicated that to Reno and Hawaii. The bookers, who are also, which Reno and part of the book staff or committee there at Knox Pro. That includes Miguel Diaz, also known as Cerrucho, also El Presidente, who is a wrestler slash booker for wrestling, along with Vincenzo Iosefe, also known as VIP, who is a wrestler both there at Knox Pro, along with his own wrestling academy slash promotion that's a little bit in the Fresno, mid-California area known as Oasis Pro, near Bakersfield, actually Pro. He was aware of it. And the reason why he decided, Andre Hudson, that he's going to bring him there, this is how I deduced it. It's for the same reason why he brought him and his father there to an event 4 years ago, back in October of 2021. We were doing shows at a place called Leonardo's Nightclub. It's so he can basically flex, show off. He knows people who are high in society, so then they can get him favored, or hopefully get him pushed into getting signed into WWE. That's why he brought him there. Basically, like I said, just to flex. If I may speak candidly, that's what it was. Speak
candidly, man.
Him to try to quote unquote Max Pro. He did that because of, look what happened. He did not need to be there.
Okay, so we're gonna fast forward here, and I'm gonna play this, and then I'm gonna stop it once blows start happening. All right, and this is where I have to stop it because there was about, by some accounts, 20 to 23 blows that had occurred that Psycho Stu was not aware that was going to happen, that people did not know was going to occur, and he got off those hits before, let me see if I can get in here. Several people then came in to stop the pummeling from happening.
Can you stop right there?
Yes, sir.
King, stop right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's something I want to bring to your attention. Now, this is something I learned after the fact when people were showing this to me. They're on their phones from what they recorded. When Raja Jackson began to felonious act of battery with the intent to cause grievous bodily harm, technical term because of my prior law enforcement background, the first person who stopped him was a young man who's 8 with Knox Pro for a couple years at the time. His ring name is Doomsday. His real name is Elias Lopez. He's wearing black face paint, kind of like a skull type design. He tried to get him, but he couldn't. So the gentleman that you see locked up with Raja, that's Douglas Malo, owned by his working name, The Epic. Douglas Malo, he's a U.S. Navy veteran, legit 6'3", 270. So that's when I saw him coming by the bar, and I thought, okay, he must be doing a run-in for the match. Come to find out after the fact, he was going in there to try to protect Stu and also protect Elias. So that when Doug came in the ring, that's when you start seeing all these other people come and trying to help Doug in the effort to subdue Raja and get Raja away from Stu. But now, really, the main two people who were successful or made a genuine attempt to save and protect Stu was Elias Lopez and Douglas Malo. Everyone else who you see come in after the fact, they were just kind of like going through the things. They're just like going through it, just wandering in there.
Okay, now I'm gonna let this play, but I'm gonna have the volume off because you talked about the additional people that came in. All right, so Stu's down. They're looking at just trying to calm him down. Why was he allowed to walk away when everything was said and done? That's the part that's baffling to me, right? Because this happened. You see, he's pummeling him just viciously this entire time. Now, there's this person right here that has the glasses. Who's that talking to Raja right now?
Say that last part. You came in broken up on my end. The question you posed.
Who is that talking to Raja that's got the glasses and all black directly in front of him? And it looks like they were having a conversation. And then eventually he's walking away unassisted. Why was he not tackled and held down and restrained until law enforcement came into the picture?
Okay, to answer your first question, who that person was up there on the ring apron wearing the glasses, who's now walking with Raja side by side, he's actually part of Knox Pro Entertainment Wrestling Academy. He used to be a wrestler known as Eyes in the Sky. His name is. He no longer wrestles due to the fact he had a career-ending injury. He got his collar cracked at the show about a year and a half ago, and he had the surgery to get it fixed to where he could wrestle. So he no longer works as a wrestler. As far as the rest of your question goes, as to why wasn't Robinson held there in place for enforcement to come there and immediately arrest him, which would have been the easiest place to take him into custody. I attribute that, and I'm going to be candid with this.
Please do. Before you begin, I would attribute it to his name and who his father is.
Well, not just that, but again, when I say poor management, I mean literally just that. Poor decision making by the management there of Knox Pro Entertainment. What I mean by that is this. Literally, no one knew outside of a handful of people who were working that match. Literally, that match went out. This is what I found out after the fact. No one knew Rajah Jackson was going to be there, one, except for a few people beforehand. And then for this run-in, no one knew at the time when we do what we call a production meeting. We typically have a production meeting every time we have a show.
Mm-hmm.
In that production meeting, whether it's just Reno and everyone else who's there is going over what's going to be the match card show, or if it's Reno and Rikishi isn't there. He was across the country with his son Tomiko, who's also there at Knox Pro Entertainment, but he too wasn't there during the incident. Rikishi and his son Tomiko, Friday of that weekend, on the 22nd of August, they were in Mississippi doing a meet and greet autograph signing. And then on Saturday, the day of the incident, they were in Memphis, Tennessee, doing a meet and greet at some type of a Comic Con or comic shop down in Mississippi. What I'm getting to is this. Typically, before each and every show, there's supposed to be what's called a production meeting where people go over who's working with who or who's wrestling who and what to expect in each match, and also put out any other company information as to state the address, if you will, of what's going on with the company. During that production meeting on Saturday, August 3rd, 2025, Reno, Miguel, VIP, and all those who are management there, which is not with me, they didn't put out Rajah Jackson was going to do what he's going to do to the majority of the group. What I found out after the fact was when he came multi-person tag team match, they had pulled people off to the side before they were going to go out, right before that match started, and told them at the last minute, hey, just look out for this run-in, this out. It's supposed to take place. Now, one would think that especially if they're going to do this at the last minute, they would have done a walkthrough specifically with Rajah Jackson to make sure he understood what was expected of him if he was going to come out and do a run-in. This is where it comes in. This is where I come in. But my position, literally, physically, during the day at the building, I was sitting by the ring, like I told you, towards the front entrance, but out of sight, out of mind. I could see everyone in the ring if they were using it to go over their matches and whatnot. Rajah Jackson, not one time was brought in the ring to do a walkthrough with anybody. I can literally testify to that fact because I was there within 15 feet of the ring from where I was sitting, to where I know who was there using the ring to warm up, using the ring to go. He wasn't brought in there. That's, to me, that's negligence. That's recklessness. They should have made sure if they're going to have him do that just because they get some social media credibility and try to get some type of viral moment, they should have done a walkthrough with him several times to make sure, okay, he understood what was expected of him. So then something like this didn't happen. They didn't do that. Right. And then, well, you saw the kick footage, which also that too. I didn't even see that until literally after the incident happened. I started having fans bombard me, start asking me questions like, hey, was this show? This smart fan saying, is this to work? And they start showing me what's all out on the internet, going like the dream stuff, and some who personally recorded the battery on their phone. I said, no, this isn't part of this show. This wasn't supposed.
Now, why wasn't he restrained Why? Like, I know you said bad management, but KT, it's baffling me that nobody within Knox
I'm gonna be candid, King, King. I already know where you're going with it. I'm gonna.
Oh, hey, I lost you for a second, KT. Let me see.
King, are you there?
Yeah, so your
King,
camera's
are you there?
off, but I can hear you. Hey, if you can hear me,
King,
I
let
can
me.
hear
I'm gonna
you.
drop out. Then I'm gonna come back.
All right, copy all. All right, so the question that I've got coming up for KT King, why, again, he was allowed to just walk off, and that's baffling to me that nobody took him and restrained him and held him down. So KT's back. His camera's not on, but Imma see. Let me bring him up. KT, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you. There we
Okay.
go.
Can you
All
hear
right,
me
you're back.
Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna answer your question, and I'm being candid. I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to make an indictment statement against anybody's character, their being, or I'm not trying to be condescending or act like I'm quote unquote all that or I'm Mr. Masculinity. But I'm speaking from a place of being candid while being masculine. The majority of people there who are involved in trying to attempt to hold Raja Jackson down and get him off Stu, they've never been in a real physical confrontation like this before. I have.
Mm,
Douglas Malo, he has. Stu, who's a victim, the ultimate victim in this, he has. The majority of people there, they've never been in actual physical close quarters combat confrontation like that. Which again, when it comes back to me and my involvement, one would think. Now, everyone there knew, especially the co-owners of the company, they know I'm a U.S. Army combat veteran. They know I'm also a law enforcement veteran. They know also I'm formally educated in the law as well as I keep myself in very good condition to where I'm believable, where I could pass and be professional wrestling. You would think they would have told me, along with how they told Doug at the last minute, hey, be on the lookout for this just in case if something goes left. You can go out there and protect Stu. They didn't even tell me. To where if I knew with how close I was to the ring that night, even with being out of direct visual sight of the ring, I could have, along with Doug, just the two of us, and maybe with Elias, who's already there as part of the match, between the three of us, or at the minimum, just me and Doug, we could have handled Rajah Jackson ourselves if that still took place to where Stu wouldn't have been as maimed as he was. Those who did come in there who are out of what they saw, they may talk a good game, but the majority of the people there, they've never been in close quarters combat like that before to know what to do. Especially from like how you're referring to my law enforcement background. If I knew, I would have done what's needed to hold him there. So then someone out of a call to LAPD, LA County Sheriff, to get this expeditiously to make sure he would have been arrested immediately that night. But unfortunately, I wasn't informed. I wasn't in on the loop on this decision making process. And that's why he was able to get away, literally get away for that night, which then led to
man,
him
all
getting
right.
arrested finally after 4 weeks.
Yep.
We can talk
Now
about that momentarily if you like.
we'll get to that here in a second. I did have so now we've laid out who you are. We've laid out your wrestling background. We've laid out the incident that went mega viral between Rajah Jackson and Stuart Smith. And now I'm talking to you. There was some text messages or a part of a Facebook Messenger thread between Knox Pro management and the wrestlers, right? And this was post incident to where there were some conversations that were being had, and I'm trying to look for the text messages on my end myself here because I've got them, but
Right.
I can't find it. Lay out what was being talked about in that text message and what you said in the text message, because now we're getting into the impact that it has on you.
Okay. So a day after the, like not even a full day, I'd say 12, 16 hours after the incident, that's when a lot of this stuff started getting put out on the internet and people started to find it and eventually started making its way onto the Knox Pro Entertainment group Facebook Messenger group chat. They at Knox Pro have a group chat that they use it to disseminate internal information to keep people informed as to what's going on with Knox Pro when it comes to what's going on with training, if there's any special events going on or need to have some type of random meetings or whatever. So what happened on Sunday, August 24th, is around, I don't have it in front of me, but I have it saved on my phone. I still have access to that group chat up until the point when I left. To where if needed, I can provide it as evidence to law enforcement. Late in the afternoon on the 24th of August, Douglas Mallow, who was one of the people who was able to protect Stu and get Rajah Jackson off of him, he had found footage from that kick stream that you showed earlier here on this live stream, where Andre Hudson was in the hallway talking with Rajah Jackson, recklessly and ignorantly trying to coach him on how to administer a receipt, which, again, be candid, it pissed Doug off, and I understand why he got upset. So where Doug left, Doug found that, he posted that in the group chat, and he expressed his disappointment as to how this could come to pass because of how that was poorly mishandled by Knox Pro management.
Mm-hmm.
So then other people started to voice their views, and also other people, I guess, had already had knowledge of how all this transpired, to where people started going in the group chat, sending messages, saying how upset they were with Andre Hudson and how this could happen. And they're basically saying this is also Andre Hudson's fault because he brought him there. So then eventually Miguel Diaz, Cerrucho, El Presidente, whatever he wants to call himself, who's one of the bookers there, lead bookers there for Knox Pro, and also who's a trainer there, he said, I'm trying to pull this from memory, something along the lines of, oh, everyone stop talking about this. No one should be discussing anything. And if you guys don't stop, I'll shut this feed down. So then several of the people, they still said stuff to call Andre Hudson out, to include VIP, Vincenzo Iosefa Parisi. He also said, hey, it was brought to his attention the night prior, after LAPD had left and done their initial investigation, that people were coming up to him. They already had knowledge that this has happened because of Andre Hudson. And he said at that moment in time, on August 23rd, after LAPD had left, defending him because he didn't have all the knowledge then. And then he saw what he saw from the kick stream that was posted in the group chat. And he started voicing how he was upset as to how he found out this is honest, Andre Hudson's fault. That's what I'm referring to. Doug found that video on Sunday, August 4th, in the group chat. Then that rolled there, and you start to see other people start calling out accountable for this. Or if that's a screen recording, let it play and you'll see all the messages. So then all people would transpire as well. I think that would help give proper context and give information.
Now,
okay, so that right there, the video, that's from VIP. Really? He never knew about that until
mm-hmm.
and he also Joseph. Like, there, you explain this on Hudson. I shut that down, and now we see, and that's when Reno Anna Weiss comes in. He randomly said, active investigation, no comments in ... question marks. So me in the blue, I say yes sir, just be like, okay, I acknowledge what you're saying. Then other people saying okay, just fly low. By flowers, stay off social media, because I already anticipated this going viral and people probably going on social media to try to say things about what happened and try to somehow blame Stu for it. So then people would not get in the comment section.
Yep.
So
So
you hear
now
this little bit of a
Andre's
paragraph.
popped
That's from
up.
Andre Hudson.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
And
this is Andre
I'm just
Hudson
going to
trying
read
to
it for the
fire
people.
back.
Yep, I'm just going to read it for the people. Joe said, "You need to explain this, Andre." And Andre goes, "Explain what exactly? That I asked for this man to get a VIP pass to the back and meet with Reno, which was granted, which somehow makes me responsible for his actions, going against whatever agreement y'all made with him in a match that I didn't see nor was even present for until after it was all said and done." Man, he tried to wash his hands of all of that. And then he said, "Beat you."
Right now about that.
Okay.
King, I don't mean to cut you off, but hear me out. More information to that. Andre Hudson in that message when he said he wasn't there for that match. Yes, he was, because his was before that match. He didn't leave the venue until around 11 o'clock. I know that for a fact because some other get through this text message thread. But
So then he
Andre
goes,
Hudson, he's revealed himself in this moment of controversy as being someone who's a habitual liar and unstable.
and it's funny because we're like, bruh, we saw the footage on Kick of you meeting him back, of you talking about the receipt. So what are you trying to say here? And then he says, "Be truthful about everything or just let the shit play out as it may. I am not responsible for this by any means." That sentence is laughable. That sentence right there is laughable.
Right, and saying the stuff about also saying about getting a ticket. That's how it works at Knox Pro. People had there with them, bring there. No such thing as a VIP ticket. It was with the person who's there, part of Knox Pro. They'd be able to go back into what's considered the locker room. There's no VIP ticket. That's why I said what I just said a few moments ago about one being revealed now to be a habitual liar and also being emotionally unstable. It's just we're able to adequately just cover his ass. And he's just saying anything to his mind.
Yep. And then he goes on to say, "Throw me under the bus all y'all want. I've already been buried over this heinous act. Now I just need to focus on my future. Obviously, I'm getting counsel for something I did not orchestrate, but y'all want to let me take the hit for it. Fine. God be with us all." And that kind of sets off people, saying some stuff. You got one person that said, "Cut this out now." And then you got Miguel says, "No one needs to be discussing anything. I'll shut this feed down." And then people go, "Agree." There's a lot of yes, sirs. Now, there's gonna be one part in here that's gonna give a direct blowback to you that occurred on a different platform, but we are gonna see your words. And man, I got to ask you, if you're not management, why did you say what you said? So not this part here. There's Fly Low, Eyes Worldwide, or On All of Us Now. It will be like that for some time to come. I would have said the same thing. I think that would have been a smart thing to communicate, and that part right there, no issues with. But as we're about to come up here, you also wrote, "Maintain decorum here in the feed. Do your best to respect each other's humanity." Again, that's a very proper thing to communicate. I again likely would have said the same thing. Now, I'm going to pause on the screen and I'm going to read this word for word. "Please refrain from engaging in comments." Hold on. I have to kind of let this go a little bit. Comment sections on social media posts about this tragedy. It will be weaponized in potential criminal and civil cases. You wrote again, "Fly low." And then you wrote, "If law enforcement or any attorney for the suspect contacts you in any capacity, let someone here know right away for guidance on how to address them." And you added everyone. If you're not management, why did you say that?
For several reasons. One, the majority of the demographic, the people there in that locker room, I already knew offhand without being all knowing. They've never dealt with situations like this before. This is something that's a regular occurrence for me from my past, from being working in law enforcement. as well as not only just being in the Army and dealing with situations like this when you get deployed to an actual combat zone, or even being out in the field. I just tried to step up and be a locker room leader. That's all I was looking to do. There was no ill intent or no malice trying to encourage people to do anything deceitful or be deceptive towards law enforcement. Especially because a lot of those people there, even the actual management, they've never dealt with something of this nature before. I know that for a fact. They may present themselves like they know how to handle something like this. No, they don't. And again, I'm not saying this to be condescending. I'm not saying this to be rude or talk down, but no, something of this criminal of nature that's going to involve criminal proceedings to include interacting not only with law enforcement, but at that time, or anticipated, Rajah Jackson, between him and his father, is probably going to, as the saying goes, quote unquote, lawyer up, attorney up, however you want to call it, which there is a difference between lawyers and attorneys. We'll save that for another time. I especially said what I said in that second message when it comes to even dealing with having to interview with his attorneys or lawyer staff he's going to get retained. There's this thing in law, whether it's criminal law, civil law, and especially the corrupt family court. We can save that for another live stream, called a deposition. A deposition is a form of a legal interview that happens outside of court. For it to begin, that person's lawyer / attorney staff, they can issue and have served upon you personally, in accordance with California Code of Civil Procedure, something called a subpoena to summons you to come where the deposition is going to take place, whether it's at the actual attorney's office or some other decent or formal office setting, to where you legally are required to appear for the deposition. It's going to be documented both in video recording format, as well as there's going to be a stenographer there who's going to type what you say word, with the intent to try to use whatever you say as means, probably from his standpoint, to try to get him off. At best, worst, try to maybe take something you say, and I'm saying that from a defense perspective, based on my law enforcement background, to try to get him probably in a lighter sentence. And also at the same time, probably twist what you're going to say as a means to deflect any accountability from him and project it back onto Knox Pro. That's why I said what I said, because none of them, they don't understand that. I did. So again, my point from saying that, I just wanted to be a locker room leader and try to get some form of stability and focus in there to get these people to understand how serious the situation is. Because that's why I said what I said early in the group chat on the thread there. This isn't just something that's just going to quickly go away. There's going to be that initial blowback and how quickly it went viral. Then eventually there's going to be the rest, which took 4 weeks after the fact. And now we're going to get into criminal proceedings, and then we'll be some form of civil proceedings, whether if Stu and his family decide to civilly go after Knox Pro for negligence, that's a realistic possibility. There's also a chance that Knox Pro could be civilly sued in civil court by Rajah Jackson himself. He could easily come up with a defense and say, well, I was told I could do this, I could do that by Knox Pro management, Reno Anawai, VIP, and Miguel Diaz El Presidente. He can easily do that. Those people there, they didn't see that. I understood that, and that's why I said what I said, to get them to understand, hey, focus. This is a real thing that's going to have real life consequences, not just for the short term. It's going to impact a lot of people there for the long term. When I said that, I didn't expect for what happened the day after to happen with the Scaling Up podcast, and when Ian Morgan, it wasn't Doug Malo, it was Ian Morgan, who's an amateur boxer out of Southern California, who was also on that viral on Monday, August 25th, who made the statements while talking about me indirectly, who took screenshots of what you just showed from that screen recording of the group chat to imply as if I was trying to get people to be dishonest with law enforcement, which then led to me and my 2 minor children who are my family getting threatened and harassed primarily through the Instagram platform. Some people found my Facebook and threatened me through there, to the point I already made statements and talked with LAPD the night of the incident. I'm the one who actually even called 911 the night of the incident. Matter of fact, even about that, I got into a verbal altercation with Miguel Diaz, also known as El Presidente. Told me not to call 911 when I first saw what happened to Steve Fact. It was that bad, and I can easily get into that. So I had to talk with LAPD again, let them know I'm getting threatened and harassed along with my family. I had to let the county sheriffs in the county that I actually reside in, San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, let them know about all these threats my family's getting. Because LAPD, I live outside their jurisdiction. They couldn't take any action. Only San Bernardino County Sheriff could. So I let them know, but then they said, well, we can't do anything to help you really unless someone's in the act of either attempting to physically harm you and or go after your kids. All because of Ian Morgan went on the Scaling Up podcast, took screenshots of what I wrote, and then put out a false narrative saying that this is coming from management and he's telling people to be this law enforcement. When both law enforcement agencies, they looked into the group chat and looked at everything in there. They said, no, you didn't commit any obstruction of justice. Therefore, which also that's a felony crime. If I committed that, they would have immediately arrested me on the spot between those two law enforcement agencies. So now I got all these people still to this day going after me, to the point now it's affecting my child custody because of what Ian Morgan recklessly did on the Scaling Up podcast, because he wanted to be part of the viral moment. Ian Morgan, he was for the incident. He'd only been with Knox Pro Entertainment as a wrestler for a handful of months, from like late 2024 going into 2025. Then, as he said here, he left Knox Pro because of other things that I still don't have all the details on, but it has to do with the bad social environment that is there at Knox Pro Entertainment.
Man, so I'm showing on the screen, and I'm not going to play it, the incident from the Scaling Up podcast, and because it had your name on it, other people started associating you with not trying to protect Psycho Stu. When I don't want to call people dumb, KT, but I've been calling a lot of people dumb lately. Any critical thinking individual would have read what you wrote and not gotten to that point. So to me, it's a lack of critical thinking in people that read that and want to look and call you a bad person. Which now let's get into the custody stuff. And I can understand that there's probably things that you can't say, man. And I get it. There's going to be other people that watch this. They're going to get it too. As candidly as you can say, how is all of this affecting you legally when it comes to the relationship with you and your children?
Because of how family law is structured, not just here in California, it's like this nationwide. There's this aspect of it called in the best interest of the child. So, because of how viral this went, my son's mother is aware of this incident. My daughter's mother is also aware of this incident. My kids, respectively, are age now 17 and 10. They're still minors. So now I'm in family court fighting to regain both legal and physical custody, where this situation is being wrongly weaponized against me, not just because of the reckless negligence of Ian Morgan trying to make me out to be like as if I'm eliciting deception at Knox Pro, which I've never done, and claiming I'm also part of management, which I've never been part of. Now, because this is brought to the attention of the family court, they're feeling that there's a safety issue because of all the threats that have now taken place, that it's not in the best interest of a child to be in my custody because of all these threats being made, saying, well, what if you're out and about, and someone tries to kidnap your son, kidnap your daughter, or try to harm you and your children witnessing that, induces trauma onto them. Now, I understand, like how you're reacting, where you're acting. I understand that, but that's how the family court looks at it. To
Wow.
where they're going to be like, well, in the interest of the child, in the best interest of a child, we feel at this time your children should not be in your custody. Therefore, you can't have physical custody, and also we're giving sole legal custody to the respective mothers. So now I got to fight because I can't afford a lawyer, nor I'm not going to try to get an attorney because I understand how family law works, especially in this state. I'm literally fighting against the county of San Bernardino just so I can raise my kids because of false ignorance by Ian Morgan on the Scaling Up podcast, paired up with those screenshots that doesn't have the full context of what was said and how it was said in that group chat. I've even reached out to Ian Morgan directly through Instagram direct message. He won't respond. I've messaged the people who run the Scaling Up podcast. The gentleman named Tanner, and also Eric Kavinsky, who ironically, he used to be at Knox Pro well before I was there. I got no response. It's got to the point because of how viral that went. This is why I left professional wrestling as a whole immediately, roughly 10 days after this incident and all these threats. It got to the point not only major mainstream outlets are taking what the Scaling Up podcast put out and running with it, and now it's all over the internet, to include ESPN, Sports Illustrated, Yahoo Sports, and specific sites that specialize in covering professional wrestling exclusively. But there's elder statesmen within the industry of professional wrestling, such as Dutch Mantel, Stevie Richards. They, during that first 2 weeks of this coverage, they were routinely going their respective YouTube platforms, and they kept putting not only my birth name out there, but images of me from my Instagram and my X/Twitter account saying, oh, this Kevin Thomas, he's out here in Knox Pro, and he's telling people not to talk to law enforcement, and he's telling people to be deceitful. So I asked directly to Rikishi himself via text message, as well as Reno and Hawaii through text message. May you please use your connections in professional wrestling to tell them, because they knew firsthand what I said in that group chat. And they knew that I didn't say anything to elicit this type of reaction. They refused to do anything to help. They just literally ignored what I text messaged them about. I have no response from them. Their so-called management there, people like Miguel Diaz, El Presidente, or VIP, Joseph, Vincenzo Alcefa Parisi, telling me, oh, you just need to just deactivate your social media for the meantime. Don't worry about this. It's like, I have to worry about this. Because especially for me to get even quote unquote regular gainful employment, it's a common practice for employers do background checks. They check the internet and social media for a person's presence, so to make sure they don't end up hiring somebody that can bring upon unneeded controversy to their company. So now it's to the point, all someone has to do, whether they use my former working name or they can type in my birth name, which is out there now because of this, Kevin Thomas, and type in Knox Pro, and all those false accusations come up. To where, like I said, I go for employment and they run a background check, that comes up. I can't make that go, which is why I asked direct Rikishi and Rito, please at least put out a statement telling the truth that I didn't try to commit any obstruction of justice or encourage any deceit. Respond.
I'm gonna do that live and see. I'm curious, and I'm using Yahoo because I normally don't search Yahoo here. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna
it'll come up on
do
Yahoo Sports.
Kevin Thomas Knox Pro, and I'm just gonna see what comes up. Oh wow! The top headline: Knox Pro Wrestling accused of telling students not to, and then I'm gonna click on it. Cooperate with police about the Rajah Jackson incident. I did this live. I did not go look this up prior. There's a lot of these ads or whatnot. I might have just gave myself a virus. Oh, here we go. Okay. So it's going on. It talks about the incident. It talks about the GoFundMe, which I am going to talk about at the end. Right here. I'm going to read this word for word, and y'all might not be able to see this. During the podcast, screenshots of text messages allegedly from a Knox Pro employee named Kevin Thomas were shown. Wow. And this was from,
Yeah.
as reported on Wrestling News by Andrew Ravens. Has Andrew tried to contact you to get your side of the incident?
No one has. No one wrongfully spreading that information has tried to contact me. No one from the Scaling Up podcast, Ian Morgan, who I messaged, which you show the screenshot of where I attempted to message him. He's retract statements. He has yet to respond to me. Rikishi, he's not talking to me, even though I asked him to please make a statement to help get some of this unneeded attention off me and my family. Why? Now, here's the thing about Reno. Last week on Sunday morning, he sent me a text message, Reno Anaway, saying basically along the lines of, we're all victims in this, and I love you. I'm like,
No.
we victims.
No.
I'm not as much as a victim as Stu, but I'm a victim of this because of wrongful information that's been put out that you're refusing to where, while at least while still a student at Knox Pro, you have the intestinal fortitude to for one of your own students, which I want to say, anyone at this point after this mercy want to go to Knox Pro Wrestling Academy /entertainment to train there to be a professional wrestler, when they won't even advocate for one of their own students when they know one of their own students clearly didn't commit any criminal or outright immoral wrongdoing, especially, I don't mean to throw it out, but it is what it is. I'm a United States Army combat veteran, a law enforcement veteran, and a father of 2 children, which they've been, especially around my daughter, they've literally been around my daughter the majority of her life and half the life of my son. They won't even advocate for a man of my stature, and yet people would want to go there still to try to train in hopes of getting hired by World Wrestling Entertainment. That's definitely not the place to go to, just off that alone. And then when I kept on finding out other negative social behavior aspects to Knox Pro after the fact, that's not a place for adults to go to train as a professional wrestler or to work their shows. Or even, there's at times through the 8 years I've been there, there's been minors every so often who go there who want to get a real early start to try to have a professional wrestling career. With how they even conduct themselves in a social setting in front of minor children, I would not advise any parent who may have an affinity of professional wrestling along with their kids, don't take your kids there. And if you're an adult, especially after this controversy, don't go there, especially for the fact, one of the things I asked before I left was, when I was debating within myself whether I'm going to stay or going to go, I asked Ryan Hernandez, who's leadership there, who, remember, used to wrestle as Eyes in the Skies. I asked him, are you guys going to get rid of that ring? Because technically, that ring's a crime scene where literally hundreds of people, including us who are students /workers, wrestlers there, saw that happen.
Yeah.
Are you going to get rid of that ring and get a new ring there? He said no. He said at most we'll just change the ring canvas and change the ropes. He said we got to keep that ring because that ring has history, because allegedly John Cena's trained in that ring, and The Miz has trained in that ring, and Batista and LA Knight, Samoa Joe have trained that ring. Oh, I try to say this as reasonably as possible. I said, okay, I understand it may have that sentimental value, but literally Stu nearly lost his life in that ring. Changing a ring canvas and changing ring ropes is not enough. That ring literally is a crime scene and piece of evidence to a crime that nearly ended his life.
Mm-hmm.
Stu, he's a man who's married. He's a stepfather, but he has stepchildren that he takes good care of. Nearly lost his life in that ring. And that was one of the deciding factors as to why I left. That's not normal. To me, that's a sense of being morbid. You want to keep that ring and just say at most we'll just change the ring canvas and ropes. Then to go off the fact they won't advocate for me, so then at least I can still have increased better chances of getting gainful regular employment outside of Knox Pro. I said, no, I'm leaving. I just said to myself, okay, I'm leaving. I'm like, and to me, there's no reason why they can't advocate for me. They saw what I wrote. They know for a fact, they even know LAPD and San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. They accessed the group chat and saw everything. So they can't say, well, we have to be sure. It's like 2 law enforcement agencies within a minute of looking at what I wrote specifically and then also looking at everything else that preceded it. They could already tell I didn't commit the act of obstruction of justice. I didn't even try to elicit any type of immoral, deceptive behavior. And they're refusing to advocate for me. So then at least if I were to stay or even if I leave, like I said, I can get easily gainful employment. So I can still continue to take care of myself and my kids. And they're refusing to do that. Instead, you got Rikishi back out here. He's just out here as if everything's status quo. Oh, let me go out here I'll do my Rikishi Off the Top Rope podcast, which, by the way, I will say this. It's there for roughly 8 years. And one of the things they pride themselves on is saying they're building people up. They want to build people up so people know who Knox Pro is. Okay, if you want people to know who Knox Pro is, have faith in the students / workers, wrestlers who are there. There's no need to bring in Rajah Jackson to try to get that social media pop. All you have to do is believe in the talent that you have there. Build them up through their actual work. There's no need to bring in Rajah Jackson, especially literally at the last minute. And you don't know how stable this guy is, if he's stable at all. Especially when you find out after the fact about how his father was basically emasculating him through social media on a regular basis and then figure how that could psychologically impact his ability to go out there in that working capacity to do that run-in, and then figure out how that could possibly put Stu and others at risk of imminent harm for their lives and their safety. And then also another thing, I've been their person for 8 years. The majority of the time I was there, for whatever reason, they make sure they're properly building people up where people would, yes, sometimes they lose, aka put someone else over while other people would consistently go over.
Mhm.
The majority of the time I was there, they always had me, regardless of what type of match it was. Everyone would always go over on me, beat me, make me lose. There's only 2 times out of dozens of times I went over. One time was for a championship. And that quickly got taken off of me because of personal issues where I had some child custody issues I had to address. I had to step away briefly. Nothing bad, nothing criminal. But the majority of the time, regardless of how much I showed, I progressed and showed I understood. I knew how to work and how to put together a match, call a match, and be respectful and courteous to people, not just on a professional, but on a personal level. Everyone always goes over on me. And yet the irony of that is Rikishi on his podcast. You can go look this up. You can see this online for his Rikishi Off the Top Rope show. He regularly, I'm trying to be as articulate as possible because there's a better word that's fitting. I'm pretty sure you know what I want to say, but I don't want to say it. He'll complain about how his sons or some of his nephews are getting poorly utilized, in his opinion, in WWE on Monday Night Raw or on SmackDown, right? Be it those same things he complains about what he sees, about how his family's being, in his opinion, underutilized. Him and those who are responsible for booking, they'd always do those same things to me, which make me think, okay, he's a hypocrite. That's just hypocrisy. Things you're complaining about, saying that's how you don't build someone up, you're doing that with me. Where it got brought to my attention, one of the other social things that got brought to my attention is, I guess a problem with me is I didn't present as being marketable because I didn't carry myself as how they feel a black man should.
Interesting.
I wasn't out there talking about, oh, where the big booty hoes at, or where's the Henny, or I wasn't talking about drinking this and smoking that, or yo this, or I'm from this hood, I'm from that hood. It's like, no, I'm not gonna carry myself as a stereotype like that. If that's what you think is marketable, then you don't understand how to properly present a product while being socially responsible as a proprietor for entertainment you want people to consume. Because whether you want to understand it or not, people are going to take from what you put out there for consumption through your product and apply that to how they view, how they feel people should act in life. I am not going to go out there, regardless of it being professional wrestling and my endeavors to get to WWE, put something out there that's going to continue to reflect poorly on how, especially, I really don't like going there with the race card, but of how black men should be viewed and how they carry themselves. I wanted to do something different where we can just be seen as men, and where also, when it comes to even a professional side, that we're bankable. We can be quality leading men without always having to play the freaking stereotypes that we've seen literally since the inception of television and movie media since the 1920s going to present day and time. Like I said earlier, I wanted to put something out there that shows KT King is someone who's confident, intelligent, and assertive, who had dignity, who's respectable, who's articulate, that yes, you can take your kids and your families to a show. KT King's there, whether he's working as a face, that's a good guy, or even as a heel, you could still be viewing him as a respectable person because he's about good quality masculinity, which is lacking in today's media, especially when it comes to quote unquote people of color. And they're an act as if that's not marketable. It's like funny. It's worked for Marvel and / Disney ever since Disney bought Marvel. They put out Black Panther and put him in the MCU. People immediately gravitated toward the character of T'Challa. So I'm like, if it can work there, why wouldn't that work in professional wrestling? That has even that much more of a deeper impact on the communities of people who consume that product.
I've got two questions for you. One is a quick question, and then one is a question to wrap up. As I've got about 10 minutes left until I have to get to another engagement. So, first question, and this was based off of what you just said. Who do you think at the national level, who is KT's wrestler of color that fits the positive masculine embodiment that you were just talking about? Like, is there a would Booker T fit that? Who is your image of what you that's at that like national level as a wrestler?
Do you mean like people I would like draw inspiration from?
Yeah, like would that be maybe like a Tony Attis?
When it comes to that, especially in this stage of my life, Kobe Bryant is one of my favorite professional athletes of all time, along with Muhammad Ali and Bruce Lee.
Give me a wrestler.
Right. And not just wrestlers. I just like Kobe. I would use the world as my library. So I just wouldn't isolate myself in just professional wrestling. I looked at men such as Kobe Bryant, Muhammad Ali, yes, Booker T in professional wrestling specifically. Yes, The Rock in professional wrestling, especially with how articulate and how electrifying he was. And what he means, I understood what he meant by being electrifying, meaning being able to connect with each and every crowd that you're in front of. I also looked at other people across the world in various forms of media and tried to pick certain aspects from various people I'd study, whether they're in professional wrestling or not, and make that into me, both when I'm out there as KT King and also from when I'm behind the scenes in my personal life and being a father to my kids. Because when it comes to, even again, I keep going back to my kids. That's what I was doing this for. I don't mind if my kids like other people in media, but also I especially wanted to do this. This is also my way of overcoming the parental interference, parental alienation I was already dealing with prior to this incident, that a lot of men, whether they're divorced or coming out of wedlock relationship where they have to go through child custody battles, have to unfortunately deal with, that a lot of people do not understand. This was my way I wanted to use also to show to my kids that I am a good parent, that I'm a good father, that I literally put it all on the line for them. This is my way of trying to fight and overcome the parental alienation, to where if I could get seen as a quote unquote star, if you will, in professional wrestling, a top guy that can help me without having to directly and say in front of my kids, hey, disregard what your mother says bad about me about this and bad about that. They can easily look into social media. And if I were to have gotten to WWE, they could say, well, my dad's a bad guy. Why is he in WWE? I can't have that now, because not just because of this controversy, but the lack of people advocating for me, which is now being weaponized against me. That's all gone now.
Okay. All right. This is my last question. I've got about 5 minutes until I have to wrap. You have the floor. I'm going to ask you a very candid question, a very specific question. And keep in mind that the eyes of the people that can see this. Why is fighting for your kids important to you?
Because I understand the importance of fatherhood, regardless if a man's a father in a traditional intact family, like how it's arguably can be said, according to the data, that's the best way to raise your kids. But I take being a father seriously. My son and my daughter, whether I'm with their respective mothers or not, I understand the importance of fatherhood and family. They're my family, even if we're not in a traditional intact family. I love taking care of my kids. I love providing for my kids. They are part of who I am. I understand they didn't ask to be in this world. I understand that because they didn't ask to be in this world and that they're my kids, I owe them. They don't owe me. And that's why I stepped up, not only to always be there for them, to be their father, and even at times have to, unfortunately, go deal with the corrupt family court, which it is corrupt because there's always consistent due process violations that occur in family court. But I take being their father seriously because I don't take them for granted. I understand that they're their own individual human beings. And I respect their humanity and I love them dearly for it. And I give everything I got for them. They're part of me. I'm part of them. I just want to simply be there for them and not just maintain my fundamental liberty rights of care, custody, and management of them, but also to have that relation, that human, simple relationship with them, both while they're minor kids and especially while they spend the rest of the 2/3 of their life as an adult. That's now been wrecked to where now it's going to take, quote unquote, time to now also repair my image to them because of this. When I say that, my image, about how I was basically seeing me portrayed as a loser, because also it got brought to my attention by my kids a couple times over the years. They've also caught several people at Knox Pro recklessly gossiping about me, which is a problem at Knox Pro, gossiping about people
Yeah.
needlessly.
Hey,
They've
kids see more than you think that they do. They hear more than you think that they do.
Right, they've already confirmed with me. They've caught over the years several times people at Knox Pro recklessly gossiping about me. That was already bad enough. But now this happens, and those people at Knox Pro who are supposed to be leaders there are refusing to advocate for me still, to where now it's being weaponized against me in family court when it comes to my ability to even have a relationship and have consistent contact with my kids. This is going to take years to, like I said, repair my image. When I say my image to my children of how they see me because of all this. When it's also juxtaposed to potentially whatever it is that their respective mothers are saying about me behind closed doors because of this, it's going to take years now to try to repair my relationship with both my son and my daughter because of this now. Along with, like I said, even trying to get gainful employment, when a background check is run on me, you just did it just by simply using the Yahoo search engine. Type in my birth name and you type in Knox Pro with it, especially you type in Knox Pro with it, that stuff comes up. You can type up my birth name by itself. You may still have to sift through a couple search pages. It still comes up just by typing my birth name or typing my birth name and my former working name of KT King. All because people at Knox Pro, especially Rikishi Fatu, he's a WWE 2015 Hall of Fame inductee class member. You would figure, okay, he would want to advocate for one of his students, him especially, along with Reno Anawai, who's the co-owner of Knox Pro. Okay, he's one of our students. We know he didn't do anything wrong. Let's go put something out, just like how we put out a message for Stu. Say, oh, we feel bad about what happened to Stu. Why won't you do that for me? To which I guarantee you this. Now, we're in the month of October. Next month is November. And you know where I'm going with this. November 11th annually is Veterans Day. I guarantee
yes.
you, especially now when that criminal trial starts with Rajah Jackson, Knox Pro Entertainment, be it on their main Knox Pro Instagram or their offshoot brands of Effin' Warriors or Lucha Wrestling Party, they're going to put out something for Veterans Day specifically themed for Stu. Just to play up like, oh, here at Knox Pro, we support our veterans and we appreciate our military veterans. Like, okay, well, if you're going to do that for him, why won't you do that for me? When you know for a fact I didn't do any wrongdoing, to the point 2 single and separate law enforcement agencies are involved in this, and they already immediately verified that I didn't do anything wrong. To me, that's showing me a lack of respect for my humanity as well as for my kids, a lack of integrity, a lack of honor, a lack of even being selfless, that they're just all about their quote unquote public image. Because also it got brought to my attention, they have an issue with me where on my Instagram, as well as all my other social media that I have, like Facebook, X/Twitter, yes, I'll regularly post, I'll put posts out there advocating for the importance of recognizing fathers in the home, fathers being able to have consistent access to raising their kids, and why men need to carry themselves in a proper masculine manner in today's society to help over time course correct with how much we're off, especially in America, how things are done here.
That's a big fight.
But they feel like,
you and I both know
I
that's a
shouldn't be
big
talking
fight.
about that. I need to be talking about how black man should be with yo this and drink this and where the big booty holes at and all this and that. Like, no. That's the problem. And like I said, it's because wrongful information has been put out and people not wanting to advocate for me. Like I even tried to contact some of these content creators, like I said, the Scaling Up podcast, Stevie Richards, Dutch Mantel, the Wade Concept, the Millennial Smart, or this attorney who's got a YouTube channel called the CLR Bruce. So I forgot his last name, some guy out of Minnesota. Which the irony of that, an attorney is going to go out there and run with those false accusations while claiming, because technically an attorney is considered an officer of the court. And he even said, I committed obstruction of justice, where there's 7 elements to that felony crime. One of them involves is using your influence to try to prevent people from telling truthful statements. I'm like, how can you say that? And you didn't even talk with anyone there at Knox Pro, let alone even myself. You're just running with something because you heard it on a podcast, in which a podcast / YouTube channel, they didn't even vet the information. They just said, oh, okay, well, we just know this guy. We'll put him out there, let him say whatever he wants, and we don't care how it impacts anybody. I'm trying to, at this stage of my life, I'm upset like I should
Absolutely.
be. I'm just, I'm not as upset as I would be if this was like 15, 20 years ago in my life. I'm upset because of how this is impacting my ability to now provide for myself and my family and get a better quality of life going, to the point now I'm living out of my family's house in San Bernardino County. I don't put the exact city out because someone's found out where I live. Within 24 hours when the Scaling Up podcast put out that first YouTube video, because they've done several since, someone's already figured out where I live at and they've been to where I live at. Thankfully, I guess they got tired of trying to figure out what room I stay out of, and they eventually left. This happened on that same, it actually happened on August 26th, around like between 1:20 in the morning to 1:45. Someone was roaming on the property, kept setting off all the motion detection lights. I'm not going to say who else is here, but there's a video surveillance system on the house by 2 different companies. It got recorded. It got to the point where that's when on that the next 2 nights, I had to go to San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, meet with sheriff's deputies at their office in a local city in San Bernardino County. I don't want to say where, because I don't want people to continue trying to connect the dots, because there's still some crazed people out there who do these type of things. Told them about it, and they accessed the group chat. That's when they figured, okay, yeah, you didn't do any obstruction of justice, but we can't do anything unless someone's actually in the act of physically harming you, or they make what we feel is a credible threat to go after your kids, especially when they're not in your custody. Which, like I said, since then, I've been in and out of family court. I got more family court dates that I got to attend over the next several months. I got to file, because I'm representing myself, all these various writs, demands, and affidavits just so I can fight again. For instance, for my son, he just turned 17. He turns 18 on October 4th, 2026. So probably if I can, hopefully I can spend at least the last 6 months of him being a minor before he turns 18 next year. And then hopefully still going forward, be able to work on my relationship with him because of all this. And then there's also with my daughter. My daughter, she's 10. It's another 8 years I also got to spend also not only raising her, but trying to mend our relationship because of this. But also, most importantly, I got to do this fight now just so I can make sure my kids are growing up together. Because like you already talked about earlier, my kids come from different women, different mothers. I understand the importance of not only just being a father and being there and raising your kids, but even in the situation where your kids come from different mothers and you're a dedicated father, you want to make sure your kids are also growing up together as much as possible in a shared parenting environment. So then also their relationship doesn't get negatively impacted. I got to do all this putting out of fires, if you will, because of reckless, wrongful information that's been put out in which none of these other people who do have a significant social influence between Rikishi Fatu, Reno Anawai, and the people there at Knox Pro, the Scaling Up podcast of Eric Kavinsky and Tanner, won't go out there and put out a simple retraction of what has been said about me, and or when it comes to Rikishi Fatu and Reno Anawai. I'm one of their now former students, because I left, like I said, 10 days after the incident. Won't go out there and say, hey, at least when it comes to Kevin Thomas, he didn't do the wrong things he got wrongfully accused of doing. He was just being a locker room leader. They won't even do that. That's why I've said what I said, like when I was on WTF Nation Radio with you and Coach. I said, I don't want to work in professional wrestling in any capacity anymore because of this. Because of all this negativity. Like I said, other people who've left Knox Pro, they are still working on independence, hoping to still pursue their dream of getting to WWE. They can actually do that. I can't. Because of now, there's elder statesmen in the professional wrestling industry, such as, like I said, you got Stevie Richards and his co-host, James Romero, some guy from London or Britain, wherever he's from, because he talks with the accent from that area, who also is a shared co-host with Dutch Mantel for his platform also on YouTube. They're wrongfully spreading that information about me to where there's no point in me being professional wrestling, because as soon as I think I'm making some headway, someone can easily talk with them, because it's a very small community. You know, there's a lot of people there.
I bet.
But, Kevin Thomas, KT King? You mean the same KT King who's at Knox Pro, who supposedly did this and that? I'm not going to get anywhere. I'm not going to be allowed to advance, because that's how much of a dysfunctional, tight-knit community it can be in professional wrestling when someone gets wrongfully accused of something and people don't want to listen to logic. So that's why I had to step away from professional wrestling. It's to the point where I don't even try to follow it actively. I just, when it comes to current stuff, I may once in a while just listen to someone else cover it. At best, I'll maybe just watch the stuff I grew up with. It's because that's how much emotion I've been burnt out because of all this. But like I said, it's affecting my personal life to where it comes to me raising my kids, and now, and knowing I don't see any concentrated effort to try to help me resolve that part of my life by simply making a simple statement saying, hey, he didn't do what he wrongfully got accused of. And we understand now how it's negatively impacting his life to where, like I said, even trying to get a job. You just proved it on live on this show. Pop in my name and all that stuff comes up. It comes up page after page after page. No one outside of this seems to care to try to correct that wrong. Even when it comes to me being able to be a father to my kids.
I have to wrap up here, as I have an engagement I was supposed to be at about 3 minutes ago. But I wanted to give you the floor to say that this is the second time that you and I have chatted about this. As you stated earlier, we chatted on WTF Nation Radio, in which I do a live stream Wednesday nights now at 8 p.m. Eastern. And that's a sports platform. It is also a military veteran platform. So there was, I think when I last looked, we had around, I think, total 30 something thousand views across the different platforms that saw your story there. It was important for me to have you come back on as well, because it was what you just said. There were a lot of elements in that. You're an active father that's just trying to fight for uh I correct me if I'm wrong, just shared custody between you and the mom. Like, you're not trying to restrict or, I'm the only one. I want to be able to see my kids and make experiences with them. And that's the fight that you've been fighting for a while now. And now this most recent Rajah Jackson incident has made it harder. So I wanted you to come back on. I was glad that you were able to. I think that you should use your voice to give your side of the story. This right here is going to be preserved so that 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line, people can come back and look at this and see that, man, all Kevin tried to do was just give some sound advice and not even frame it a certain way, but just to, again, what you did, I'll say this, what you did 10 years ago, I would have done the same thing. As a 40-year-old person, there was something that Greg Adams said on his live stream today. He basically said, nobody gives a F about you, and that you've got to go out and take care of things yourself and understand that when the rubber meets the road, you're not going to have anybody in your corner. And him saying that reminded me of a couple of different things. I've grown up and I've made a lot of mistakes myself, and I earned the consequences from it. But then there's been other times where a situation had occurred, some static happened, and I'm looking like, where's the people that said that they'd be there? So thanks for coming on. You've got a platform over here. If there is any relevant updates, good or bad, because look, you're open to talk about this. So whatever you can legally say, I'd love to have you back on. Hopefully there's some positive news that comes out of this relatively soon. But thanks for coming up and using your voice to share your side of the story, KT.
Again, thank you for having me on your platform as well as on WTF Nation Radio. I appreciate it. At least there's been, between you and Coach here on WTF Nation Radio, those who are part of the other site that we're both members on when it comes to Coach Greg Adams and his additional platform inside of YouTube. I appreciate the support I get from people there. Like I said, I'm really disappointed in Rikishi Fatu and Reno and Hawaii not using the social influence that they have to where they could just simply come out, put out a statement, or even at least people that they can easily contact within the professional wrestling community and talk to them to let them know to stop spreading the wrong information about me, Kevin Thomas, because of how now it's personally affecting my life, and that I didn't do the wrong that I got recklessly accused of by Ian Morgan on the Scaling Up podcast, to where now it's affecting me when it comes to child custody. And now I'm going to spend at least the next several months going into now 2026 in family court. And also, like I said, I'm trying to get gainful employment outside professional wrestling. It's a standard practice for whatever job you're applying for that does a background check. They check the internet. They check your presence for social media, not just your so-called accounts on Instagram, Facebook, X, Twitter. They check to see if you're out there on the internet involved in any type of controversies along the lines of something like this, to where now you just saw it. You type in my name, all that stuff comes up, to where in some of those results, it includes pictures of me, to where an employer's going to look at that. They're going to see me, and depending on their temperament, they too might just ignorantly go off that narrative, and they'll be like, oh, well, we found this on the internet. And technically, legally, by law, they don't have to communicate why they won't select me for a job when it comes to background check
Mhm.
results. They can just internally, with the people who are part of the decision-making practice or progress, I should say, they can easily say, oh, this Kevin Thomas, he's the one that's part of that Rajah Jackson Knox Pro Entertainment controversy. And he's applying here. Oh, don't hire him. Because according to the Scaling Up podcast and Ian Morgan, Kevin Thomas, he told people to be dishonest without actually vetting it to see if it's true.
Yeah.
For now, it's put me and my kids, my family, in a bad situation, like I said. Next several months, going literally into 2026, I'm going to be dealing with family court. And now still trying to get gainful employment, which is also necessary for me to have something to show in family court to say, yes, it's safe for my kids to be with me, so I can further protect my fundamental liberty interest in the care, custody, and management, and having a relationship with my kids that's technically secured through man-made law in the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and such significant case laws from the Supreme Court level, such as Troxel versus Granville. You also got Santowski versus Kramer, another one from the Court of Appeal level out of California called City of Fontana versus Smith. That's how versed I am in law and family law that I'm trying to use to try to protect my rights to be able to raise my kids. When I say my rights, what it means is what I'm legally entitled to from what the law says I can legally have, even though I was born with the rights. I say that so I can show to people I understand how all this works when it comes to law and rights.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, KT, thanks for coming on, man. Stay in touch. Keep us updated with what's going on, man. And when you have some type of updates, man, I'd love to have you back.
Thank you, King. I appreciate that. And I appreciate Coach over there at WTF Nation Radio. And like I said, Coach Greg Adams and the Coach Gang and the other platform we're all on as a group. Just thank you, and I appreciate this opportunity.
Absolutely, man. I give you a salute, my good man, and you enjoy the rest of this evening. We got Thursday night football that's coming on as well, man. We got Eagles versus the Giants. Well, quick question. Are you a fan of either one of those teams?
LA Chargers.
Hey, all right. All right, KT, man. I'm going to kick you off here, wrap up the show, and call it a night, brother. You have a good one.
Thank you, King. Thank you, everyone who viewed. Thank you.
All right. So that was KT, formerly known as KT King. Man, all right. Look, that incident that had occurred had some ripple effects that didn't just last for Stuart Smith, aka Psycho Stu. It also had an impact because of 2 to 3 sentences on a text message thread that then went to a different media source that has now impacted KT directly between that profession, that entertainment field, and any future profession or employment that he seeks out going forward. It's my hope that by having him on this platform, I just wanted to give him a space to speak. I tell anybody, I tell KT, if you still listening, create your own podcast, create your own YouTube channel. You don't necessarily need to have, I mean, you kind of do, but you need to have like a specific theme. Make yourself the theme that is discussed and talked about. Like what I do for my day job, and I really should go because I'm late. My day job and what I do, some of the people know that I do these different live streams and I talk about varying subjects, but for the most part, I'm talking about what's going on in my life and giving my point of view. And a lot of that is to give my daughter something that when I'm no longer on this earth, she has something that she could go back and see her father, hear his words, kind of get some insight into what he's thinking about. That's not one of the main reasons why I do it, but it's definitely a byproduct for it. So, KT, create your own YouTube channel, man. You can talk about family court stuff if you want to. You could talk about um life in general, what you thought when you were, a young man versus now, what you would like to see regarding masculinity going forward. I know it can be, I'm not going to call it a dangerous topic, but it could be a topic that can laying you in hot water, but what good thing that happens in life, or what kind of course corrections, because we need some course corrections. We need a lot more discussions about masculinity out there. There are people that are leading that fight. There are people that do have those conversations out there, but there needs to be more. So good luck. Love to have you come back on. And yeah, I'm gonna wrap on that. I'll be live tomorrow. I have to give an update, and it's normally supposed to be on Thursdays. I've been slipping. I said I was gonna do daily morning live streams, and I ain't done one in about 2.5 weeks. So I'm gonna kick that back up here pretty shortly. I'm the actual King Smith, and I'm out. Peace.
Yeah. Come on. Yeah. Trumpets blare the golden call. A throne awaits, I rise so tall. Drums like thunder, shake the hall. Royal robe, I wear the weight. Diamonds cut the night, no debate. Heavy is the head, but I'm feeling great. Crown me king, crown me king. Horns will shout, let the kingdom sing. Crown me king, crown me king. Bow to the sound, feel the power I bring.